Good morning everybody and welcome to our sunrise safari. It is a beautiful morning. The sun is just starting to peek up over the horizon. Well, not just peek up yet, the light is starting to peek up over the horizon and it really is a beautiful temperature. My name is Tristan and on camera today I have got Sebastian, and remember it is live, it is interactive, which means hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or on the YouTube chat if you want to get hold of us. We are down already close to where we had Tingana last night. We're trying to just see if he's not on this carcass, then I would be very surprised, but we know Tingana is a little glutton and he can eat quite quickly, so hopefully he is still here. He had a duiker carcass last night. We managed to just see him come down, and then we saw a duiker in the distance tree, and he was still had quite a bit of meat left on it. It wasn't exactly a sort of empty, well, a half-eaten carcass, so he's got a lot of food there as far as I thought. I'm just gonna, we good? Yeah. But you know with Tingana he can sometimes wolf things down, especially if he's hungry, so he might not be here, but I'm hoping that he is still lying somewhere in this general vicinity. I don't see him already, and I can see the tree where the carcass was, but let's go down and have a look anyway. You never know, maybe he's sitting somewhere here. I believe he wasn't seen on the dam cam last night, so maybe he finished and then carried on one of his territorial patrols. We know that he can be a bit like that. I don't see any leopard in the tree either. I think it's all finished. Tingana, did you eat everything already? It looks like it. There's no sign of a leopard that I can see anywhere here. Just want to turn off and have a look properly. But the kill was in this back tree over here, this really horrible tambuti tree. It was up in the top sort of area over there, and I don't see any sign of it anymore. There's no legs dangling there. So either he's dropped it and it's been stolen, or he's finished it already. There is a little sort of drainage on the other side here, so it might be worth just checking there. I would have really thought he would have been here. There was enough to keep him, I would have thought, overnight at least, and maybe he would be walking at this time. But like I said, we all know how he can be, and if he did drop it and hyenas managed to get it, then, well, he was not going to be coming anywhere near here. Well, he would be anywhere near, he would be moving along and walking around. No, I don't see him. Seb, do you see anything? Tingana, where have you gone? Okay, well, that means we're going to have to try and see if we can't track him down and find out where exactly he's moved to. I don't see. I'm trying to think. He should have gone for water if he had a kill. You can see actually all the fur here on my right hand side. There's all the fur where he had plucked it. So there is some semblance of signs of him being here, but that's the duiker fur that you can see all over the ground. So he's plucked the carcass. He must have just eaten everything and then moved off. Well, guess we're going to have to do some legwork, Sebastian. We're not going to get this that easily, so we're going to have to try and see if we can find a track or something as to which direction he's gone. Oh, Tingana, you make life quite difficult. But anyway, it's not just me out here. Steph is also out and about, and I believe he's with lions already.
Hello and good morning everybody from the Mara Triangle up here in Kenya's Masai Mara Game Reserve. I'm Stefan Tabura. On camera today is David, and we've come straight back to where you left us last night. Last night there was two male lions and a female that were lying around a dead zebra. And although we can't see any sign of the zebra where we are today, we've still got the lions. And it looks like they have finished mating. Yesterday they were a mating pair. We've watched this pair stand up and walk a considerable distance without the male trying to cover her. And judging from the feedback that other field guides in the area gave me yesterday, they've been at it for quite some time. And lions will normally mate with one another for about a week or so, and then it sort of fades off, and the male lion then carries on and patrols his territory and leaves the female to basically nurse the youngsters, which take about 110 days to grow inside of her. And she'll give birth to anywhere between 2 and 6 youngsters after 110 days in a secluded den site somewhere. And we'll see the cubs then in about 100 and... oh, let me count now. So we see cubs usually from about 3 to 4 weeks. So what would that be? That would be... help me here, Dave. 150 days, 160 days or so. So about 160 to 180 days from now, we'll start to see this female lion's babies, if she's managed to take. And that's also a question. Although the lions here seem quite fertile, there's enough food going around, there's low stress. And what is quite nice is this lioness has some sisters lying around her. And so it's not just this mating pair, but it's also some more lions on this side of the vehicle. And if I were to guess, I would imagine that what this lioness is licking over here is the leftovers of the zebra. Yeah, there we go. So they've managed to almost finish the entire thing. That just looks like a piece of mane and head. So between this big male lion and here, you can see they're busy walking off now again. That lioness was busy looking. You can see how attentive the male is still. He just wants to make sure that she absolutely is not going to ovulate again. And he does that by tasting her urine. So every now and again she'll have a spray of urine and he'll then taste it. And he's got very, very sensitive chemical receptors in the roof of his mouth that is able to discern the taste of well, I suppose... Let me try and rephrase that before I dig myself a bigger hole. The chemical receptors in his brain will be able to analyze the hormone state in her urine, and from that he'll be able to instinctively judge, at a subconscious level at least anyway, what if she's finished or not. Here you got some marabou storks and a vulture and an Egypt or sacred ibis. And those are almost always associated with carcasses. Ducati, you've asked me a nice question. Do lions' hair go grey with old age? That's actually a good question. I think if lions were left to age a bit, I think there's every chance that they could probably go, I don't think grey like we do, but definitely a bit blonder. I think that is exactly where the carcass was. I don't think there's much left with the head lying on this side. There are a few vultures there. Isn't that just a magnificent sight? 2 lions and a vulture sharing the same picture. That in the distance, that flat grassed area there, is a marsh. And although this is the dry season in Kenya, it wouldn't seem that way from the fact that we've had rain almost every single day here. But this is the dry season. The wet season, which is coming in November, apparently fills this marsh right up. And we're going to have a standing sort of pan of water, a shallow pan of water in that whole area. So from where these lions are basically to those bushes in the background. And it's enormous. It's easily, I would say, about a mile or so across, by a mile or even more wide. A massive expanse. And there she's going to go and lie down on top of that mound there. That's actually going to be quite nice. What a sight. Hey everybody, lions in the early morning up in the Masai Mara here in Kenya. That is a good thing to see. Just look at that. Massive expanse of land here. Let's go forward a little bit and go and stand there next to him and see if we can get you some nice screenshots. Chastity, you've asked me a very awesome question. You've asked me, are there any circumstances that that will happen? I see there's another lion down there as well. You've asked me if there's any circumstances during a lion's pregnancy or gestation period that will allow for more male cubs than females to be produced. Chastity, yes, there is. There's a study out that I read a couple of years ago that states that more males will be born into a pride that has reached saturation of adult females. So any area, let me think about a little bit of context here. So the area that a lion pride inhabits is managed and governed by females, not by males. Males they fight for dominance over an area, but they do not hold territories. That belongs to the females, and it's a hereditary title. Females in any particular pride, as long as that pride stays healthy, will pass their genes in that area down from pride member to pride member females, and prides can be in areas for centuries. Any area around is can only at one point have so many females. There can't be a never-ending supply of females, and let's call it 10 females in a particular area. Once there are 10 adult females in an area, the majority of cubs born into that pride will be males, and that's because males disperse, and healthy prides obviously have healthy genes, and that pride wants to disperse its genes as much as it can into the area. And so a healthy pride that has reached a saturation of females in any particular area will have more males than females. Young prides or small prides tend to have more females, and that's because the more females you have helping you hunt, the healthier you're going to be, and then by default the healthier your cubs are going to be as well. And so that's basically the breakdown of it. I hope I've explained it to your satisfaction. Now, there are a lot of lions lying here in actual fact. There's not just these ones here. We've got this female that you're looking at right now. Then in the background over there, there's a lion's belly that you can see there. There's two lying there. And then just left over here, there's a male and a female as well. So we've got another male and a female. We're going to have to go forward, Dave, but to the tree with the vultures on the right-hand side. He's just lying over there, where that other female walked to. And then it's no wonder that they've managed to inhale this zebra. A full-grown lion will eat about 25% of its body weight in a sitting, and a lion will weigh around about 300 pounds for a female and around about 500 pounds for a male. So you can imagine that at 250 pounds of meat. No, what would that be? That would be half. So 125 pounds of meat for a big male lion in a sitting. There's not much left of a zebra after that. And they will need to eat again. They'll probably be hungry in about 48 hours again, and they will look starving in about 2 weeks. Lions have a very quick metabolism and will burn through the meat, the energy that this meat has given them very quickly, and so they'll probably not hunt awfully with a lot of conviction, at least anyway tonight, and perhaps by tomorrow again they will. Right, what we're going to do is slightly reposition the car and see if we can see any more cats here and get you another look at these male and that female. And while we do so, why don't we go over to Taylor, who's waiting to say good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome, of course. Sorry for the late start. My name is Taylor, and on camera with me today is Craig. Well, actually, we weren't late. We were out first. We were just in areas we didn't have any signal. We'd gone across the river last night, and I was very fortunate enough to meet the Silas pride. And, well, what a beautiful pride they are with two beautiful big males. Very, very nice. But we're scanning around at the moment. We're back in the Mara Triangle, and we're trying to find some lions. That's going to be the plan. So I think what we're going to go and do is we've had a couple of sightings where we've had a group of females with some young males and then an older male. I think I'm going to try and find them. I'm not sure which pride it is, but it's sort of down this way to the west in the escarpment. So we'll head down there and hopefully we'll be able to find something and follow them. But it was quite chilly for the last hour. It's been freezing, but now that the sun is out and above the clouds, it's actually quite pleasant this morning, so it's really nice. Hopefully we'll be able to take some layers off and defrost in the sun, although it's still not as cold as the Djuma mornings. So yeah, so that's all that's really happened so far. We're just searching around for some animals, and hopefully we shall find some of those predators along the way. But I wasn't here last night, so I really don't have much to follow up on as to where everything was. Craig and I were kept up most of the night because the Sala's lions were roaring. It was fantastic. It was really nice. And it seems as though Tristan is doing what he does best, and that's tracking leopards. Hopefully he's going to relocate on Tingana and is killed.
We are busy tracking leopards. We just got sidetracked a little bit by our woodpecker that seems to have found some sort of food source in the road itself. It keeps putting its beak into the road and kind of looking around and sort of digging out little things. I don't know what it's getting in there. It looks like a golden-tailed woodpecker from what I can see. I'm just trying to see it turn its head a little bit. Come on. You've got your little red cap at the back and a stripy forehead, which is very typical of the golden-tailed woodpecker. And they like to feed on the ground. The other woodpecker that does the same feeding behavior is the Bennett's woodpecker. So you'll find Bennetts will also jump around on the ground feeding, and so will the golden-tailed. I'm just trying to see the eye color as well, because the eye color will be indicative of whether or not it's a Bennett's or a golden-tailed. Come on, come closer. There we go. What eyes do you have? Do you have red eyes? You're not sitting still very much. I didn't dirt you asking if there's termites. There could very well be termites. That's possibly what it is eating. Termites often are on the roads early in the morning when they're looking around for food and they go and get grass and various other things. So it could very well be. I don't know. It's difficult to see. I mean, obviously termites are tiny, so it's hard to know exactly what's on the ground. But termites is probably the best guess that we could come up with. So it looks as though it's got the red eye, which would be a Bennett's, and I haven't seen a Bennett's in a long time. So I just want to see if it comes out a little bit more and we can actually see the eye color a little bit better. John, you're wondering if they can walk or if they just hop? No, they always hop around like this. So I think it is a golden-tailed. Now that the eye is catching a bit of light, it's not red. So golden-tailed woodpecker is the proper idea of it. But though they hop around like that all the time, they don't walk. Remember that they spend not that much time on the ground. Woodpeckers obviously only feed on the ground and then they go up into the trees or fly around. So it's in all likelihood the way that they move on the ground. There's no running. I've never seen a woodpecker run. It's always just hopping as they move and look for food. But whatever there is, it's found itself a whole buffet of them because it's hopping all over the place. Snazzy, you're asking if it's illegal to have a woodpecker as a pet. Snazzy, I don't know actually. I don't know that a woodpecker would be a bird that would be easy to have as a pet. I would imagine they would do a lot of damage to all kinds of things. I have never heard of it being illegal, and most of our woodpeckers are not endangered that you get here in this part of the world. There are other woodpeckers in South Africa that are. I would imagine that endangered ones, yes. These guys, I don't think so. I mean, I don't know, to be honest. I don't think there would be an issue, but I can't say for sure. Ah, look, there's another one in the background. So there we go. There's another individual in the background. Anna Marie, you say you love the colouring of their bright head. They are beautiful, aren't they? They're very, very pretty bird, and when the sun comes out you get these little gold streaks in them. They're very, very pretty. I always like seeing the woodpeckers. They certainly are a good looking bunch. But it's interesting because the one at the back that we saw second has got the black on it, and that's more indicative of the bennets than of the golden-tailed. So maybe they are Bennett's woodpeckers. Does it have black or is it red? Difficult to ID them from here. It looks like black to me. Yeah, this one looks a bit different. You can see it's got a cleaner head. It doesn't have that streaking on the front. Maybe we've got both. But the fact that they're in such close proximity to one another would tend to suggest that they are a pair. And that front one just doesn't look like a golden-tailed at all. It looks more like the Bennets with that red and very clean head. The Bennets tends to have quite a dirty kind of streaky little head to it and forehead, whereas the Bennett's is a lot more plain and there's no sort of striping on the throat. It's also supposed to have a spotted necklace and not a streaked necklace, but when they're all fluffed up in the morning like this, it's very difficult to see whether they're spotted or streaked. But that bird there is a Bennett's woodpecker for sure. This is the different one. This is the second one that came out, but that is definitely a Bennett's woodpecker, which is hopefully a new bird for some of you. It's been a long time since I've seen one. Did Byron get one on his bird challenge?
Yeah.
He did. Ah, that's good. Good. That's well done. They are around. It's just I haven't seen one for a while, especially not feeding like this. Look at this little one hopping around. John, you would like me to explain as to how the woodpecker's head is designed to absorb the shock. Well, there's two things that are really very important in their shock absorbing ability. The first is that their brain sits in quite a lot of fluid, so there's quite a lot of shock that's absorbed by the fluid between the skull and the brain itself. So basically as they hit, the brain moves slightly and it's not actually hitting up against the skull and causing damage. The other thing is that their tongue is incredibly long, so their tongue is much longer than any of the other birds, and their tongue actually attaches at the base of the skull on the back side. So where the wings are, that's where the tongue is. It then stretches over the top of the head and then into the beak that way, and that then acts as a shock absorber. So as it's hitting, that tongue is absorbing a lot of the banging as they go into wood and various other things, and even on the ground like this. And so that's how they protect their brain, is through those two situations, which is very clever. And so imagine having a long tongue that acts like a big padded forehead that you just kind of hit against and nothing happens. It's a very, very clever thing to have. Right, well, our tracks for Tingana come up towards quarantine. Seb said he had squirrels alarm calling around final control this morning, so maybe he's gone that way. We're going to try have a look and check if his tracks head towards that side. It would be interesting if he did go that way, because it's not a normal route that we see him walking. He generally comes down Twin Dams Road and heads that side, but I suppose nothing's ever normal with Tingana. He's always all over the show. So let's have a look. Maritza, you wondering who I think would be easier to track, Tingana or Shadow? Ooh. That's a trick question, because they're both very difficult to track. I see the tracks here. We go. So you see them here, Seb. But this looks like for a female. This is not for a male. There was a female leopard here as well. You can see just on my right hand side over here, it's coming from where Seb and I actually live at the moment, and it's coming down that direction. So there it is. That's for a female leopard. Relatively small, and maybe both leopards were at that carcass and that's why it's finished and there's nothing there, but that is definitely for a female moving southwards. I don't know where Tingana's tracks have gone. The last track I had for Tingana was going to where we stay. So maybe they met up there and he's also turned back south. So let's try follow these and see where they head, because I would imagine Tingana would have gotten onto the tracks of a female and come this way. And these tracks were definitely not tracks I saw yesterday, so they must be from last night. I wonder who this could be. I suppose Tundi is around a lot at the moment, but I'm secretly hoping it's maybe little Shongile. But in terms of the toughest one to track, I think Tingana, just because of the sheer distance he covers. He moves so much that it's really tough to keep up with him and to find out, how he's moved and where he's gone, and to try and actually stay with him is really very difficult. Shadow, at least, she's tough, but she doesn't move like Tingana does. She's at least a little bit more sedate and more sort of stationary than what he is. She'll just move in a very dense, thick area, and that's what makes it hard to find her. But in terms of actual sort of tracking, Tingana's the one that will just drag you miles and miles and miles and miles. And the problem with that is that you end up generally tracking towards boundaries, and that makes it a lot harder. I don't know where this female leopard's gone. She's just vanished. I can't find the tracks anywhere from where they were just now. So I'm going to try and see if they don't come out somewhere here. While I do that, let's go back to Steph and his romantic couple that are surveying the landscape of East Africa.
What an absolute treat we have here this morning. We've got these two lions. It's a mating pair that are lying up on this open patch of grass that the wildebeest have mown flat almost to golf course height over the last couple of weeks, and they're lying in the sunshine just enjoying this early morning sunshine. It was a cool-ish morning this morning. I've got a sleeveless jacket on and a shirt, so it's about as cold as it gets here in the early mornings, and they're just enjoying the sunshine. Just have a look at how perfectly blue the sky is. Big stretch from this lioness. She's been really busy the last couple of days with this man, and I think she's enjoying the company of having a zebra close by and her sisters close by, and finally getting over this ordeal, I think. He, on the other hand, could do with a bit of a meal. I think even though the rest of the pride has had a lot of zebra in the last couple of hours, I don't think he is partaken. She has. She's got a little bit of she's got more meat in her belly than what he does. Difficult to see if she's an adult lion. So I look at the belly and the legs, and you can see that she's got some spots on her legs still. Okay, now quite often when lions are mating with one another like this and they approach you, male lions can get a little bit edgy around cars. You can see that. Now don't walk towards me, girl, go somewhere else. Males can sometimes have displaced aggression if females are between sort of us and them. Abby, you want to know if pride mates would adopt cubs from another lioness if they'd pass away? Yes, they would, Abby. So they communally suckle. He's got something wrong with his back leg. Do you see that there? He's got a big wound on his inside of his thigh. Abby, I'll answer this now. Oh, and the swelling caused by the injury is now chafing, and he's actually lost all the hair on the inside of his thigh. It's not nice. Abby, yes, so they communally nurse their youngsters, and given the fact that the cubs are older than about 8 to 12 weeks, and given the fact that a female will be lactating, another female will be lactating in a pride, orphaned cubs will be looked after. Now, they may not be the healthiest cubs, and they may not always get the choicest meat, but they definitely will be looked after, and it's an important thing, that, because there's not a lot of energy going around in a lion pride. The fact that there are more wildebeest than there are lion is testimony to the fact that meat is not that nutritious. And the life of a lion is very difficult. There's not enough metabolic energy even to sustain a big body like this. And so cubs are important, is basically what I'm trying to get at. And they're there to be treasured. They're not there to be thrown away at a whim. And so lions have lots of babies. They've got they're very good moms. They're very good parents. They community look after cubs, and up to a point will be looked after as much as what they can keep up. And that's the rule in a lion pride. If you can keep up with a pride, you'll be looked after. You'll be protected. You'll be fed. You'll be welcomed in at carcasses. And but if you fall down, if you fall behind, then you're on your own. Now what's he doing? He's rubbing his head on those bushes as high up as he can stretch with his head. He's got a bunch of scent glands in their face. All lions have got a bunch of sebaceous glands in their face, and each lion has their own particular smell. And he's wiping that sebaceous gland secretion all over those bushes as high as he can. And that's to allow other lions in the area to know that he's here and how big he is. So he's basically showing other lions how tall and magnificent he is by leaving a scent as high up on a bush as what he can. There's a good chance that he'll spray now with his tail. Let's see, they normally walk past and then he'll lift his tail up. There you go. And some urine. Zoop, zoop. And there you saw it coming out there. And that's another thing. The higher up a bush you can pee, the bigger you must be as a lion. I think all little boys to a point have the same problem. My son stands quite often and sprays his pee as high up as he possibly can do it. Never quite leaves us, I must be honest with you. Michael, you want to know what factors determine a pride's maximum capacity? So in other words, just to give everyone who's just joined us some context, there was a question asked a little bit earlier by a viewer. Are there factors that determine or whether or not more males or more females will be born into a pride? And there definitely are. When a pride has reached saturation in any particular area, more males tend to get born. And by saturation, I don't mean male lions, I mean by female lions, adult female lions, not even sub-adult female lions. Adult female lions determine the ratio between males and females that are born. And now we're talking about what factors determine the saturation point. And that would, in my opinion, hinge on three things. It would hinge on food availability. And so the more food, the more lions in any given area. The less food, the less lions in any given area, which sounds pretty normal and easy to understand. The next thing would be, I suppose, wow. So apart from food, what would it be? Topography absolutely has an effect on pride size. It actually has an effect on herd size, and I'm extrapolating that into pride sizes. So wide open spaces make it easier for herds to increase, and that is because of the monoculture available, and therefore the amount of food that's available in any given area. And I would imagine it would be exactly the same with lion, that wide open spaces are good for lots of herbivores are good for lion. And so I would say in broken areas, thicket areas, forested areas, mountainous areas, even if there was a large abundance of food, I think that lion prides would be smaller than they are in these wide open plains. I'm trying now to think about my experience with lions. The largest lion prides I've ever seen have been here in the Mara Triangle and in the Lubombo basalt plains of the Kruger National Park, where we once had 52 lions in 10,000 hectares, which is a massive amount of lions. As far as I understand, it was at the time the highest concentration of lions in Africa in any one place. And those are very open plains, grassy plains dotted with some bushes, very similar to what you're looking at here. Now, Rishi, you want to know what the largest pride is currently residing in the Mara? I'm going to try and see if I can answer that for you now. I just want to close off on Mish's points. So I think that the pride size is determined by two factors, by the availability of food and topography. There may be one or two other factors as well that I'm not considering right now, but I think that those would be the two major ones. Now, Rishi, to answer your question, I think that the largest pride of lion in the Mara Triangle at the moment is the Paradise Pride. I stand to be corrected. And the reason why I stand to be corrected is that I've had very little to do with uncovering of these pride dynamics over the course of the last couple of months. I've been managing a team of fantastically professional hooligans and trying to build a camp, and I haven't taken the time to study as much as what I should have, and so I'm not that familiar with the lion prides here. In fact, I don't even know what lion pride this is. I'm assuming it is one of three prides: the Angamas, the Sausage Tree Pride, or the Paradise Pride, basically because we're on the borders of their three territories. So quite difficult for me to say, but from what I can gather, the Paradise Pride, which is located on the Mara River north of Serena, is the largest pride of lion in the Mara Triangle at the moment, and it numbers I want to say over 20, although I'm going to ask, there are some of our viewers out there who have a lot more information than I do on the lion prides in the Mara, and for that reason, please feel free to chip in here and help me answer Rishi's question if you don't mind. Now, these lions are probably going to be doing much the same as what they're doing now for the rest of the day. They're probably going to be bouts of waking up, marking territory, socializing with the other lions in this pride, and basically just finishing off that zebra, but spending most of the day in the shade here. And because of that, I think what we're going to do is carry on with the game drive and see if we can find anything else interesting to show you. And, if needs be and we don't see anything else exciting, we'll come back here toward the end of the game drive maybe and see what they're up to. Otherwise, there's lots more to see. So I'm going to be leaving this particular sighting now. And while I do, it's a good opportunity to send you all the way down south to go and speak to Tristan and find out how his tracking of Tingana is going about.
Well, Tingana's tracks are proving to be elusive, but these female tracks are coming down Philemon's Dip, and I was just saying to Seb that the movement of these tracks is exactly like Shongile used to walk. It's the exact same route she always used to take. The tracks are tiny, and it seems that she was actually in where we stay at Inga's. She came into that little area and she was messing around in that side. Maybe she went and drank from the swimming pool, which is clean water. And so it's around this Ingwe Alley, Philemon's Dip, which is a very typical Shongile way to walk. So I mean, it could be Tandi. It's difficult now because they both got very similar sized paws, but I think maybe just maybe this might be Shongile's tracks. Hopefully it is, because it would be just so wonderful if it was her and we found her. I lost the tracks though on Philemon's Dip Road, so I'm just now checking Ingwe Alley in case they cut through the block. Otherwise I'll have to go and check Philemon's cut line and see if she hasn't moved towards Treehouse, because we know Shongile used to go that way towards the old hyena den and then on towards Treehouse. That's often a route she used to take, so it wouldn't surprise me if those tracks come out on that side. Nothing there. Michael, you're asking if it would be possible that Tingana decided to move the carcass into another tree. It would be possible, except that the carcass wasn't that big, and so it was going to be touch and go that he was going to be here this morning anyway. And on top of that, we would then have seen him somewhere there, or a drag mark indicating that he had walked in that direction or he had dragged it in that direction, and there's been none of that. So I don't think so. I think in all likelihood he's finished and moved off. Also, there's really no need for him to have dragged it into another tree if it's for such a small carcass. He might as well just eat it where it was and go. There were some tracks for hyenas there as well, so what I think has happened is he put it in such a horrible tree to start that he was trying to reposition it to be able to feed on it properly, and he then maybe dropped it and the hyenas took it and went. That's what I think has happened, because I would have thought he would have still been crunching on some bones this morning, and we would have found some sort of signs of hooves and things if he hadn't dropped it, whereas there's absolutely nothing. It looks as though the hyenas have gotten in there and taken whatever there was. Alright, so our leopard doesn't come out this side, so Philemon's cutline side it must be. Let's turn around here, Seb. Michelle, you asking if Tingana would be a threat to Shongile? No, not really. At the end of the day, Tingana has been with Shongile a few times, and she is a female, a young female, so he'll know there's a mating opportunity that lies there, and also that it's his cub still. So either he's seeing her as a female that he can potentially mate with and then he'll leave her alone, or it's going to be that he still sees her as his cub, and therefore he's not going to worry too much about it at all. So that's the kind of way that his thinking will go. Although with Tingana you never really know what he's up to, and it's possible he could be dangerous to her, but I think Shongile would be so submissive to him and so much smaller that I don't think he'd be in any way threatened by her, and I don't think he'd go after her. So I think she's alright, and she'll probably be just fine. And remember that she'll be, in a year's time, she should be able to already start mating, so it's not long now and she'll be already on that sort of way of thinking and that way of moving around, and so Tingana will know that soon he'll be able to mate with her and therefore leave her alone. Where did you go, Shongile? Or Tandi, or whoever you are? It would also just be nice to know. What is that, Seb? Do you see that?
Red thing.
Yeah.
It's like an old rusty barrel.
But where? What is that doing there? So apparently Seb says there's an old rusty barrel, but it's the first time I've seen it. I have no idea why there would be a barrel lying in the bush there. Maybe with all the vegetation, but in there somewhere you can see a reddish coloured barrel thing, which we shall come and remove at some point. Obviously can't take it now, but it's so strange. It's the first time I've seen it, and I mean the vegetation I suppose has gotten less, but I would have thought I would have noticed it before, and I've walked there before as well, so I have no idea, unless maybe they're busy doing something with the pipes here at Philemon's Dip. It could be something to do with that. The road does run quite close to there. Right. Okay, I need to try and find out exactly where this track goes and where it's cut off to, if it's gone east or west or north or south. And so while I do that, I believe Steph is still with a dead animal somewhere, and there's lots of scavenging birds.
Hey, we've got a treat for you here. We haven't quite left just yet, but this carcass has all of a sudden elicited the attention of the Scavengers, the cleanup crew, and it's made up of a collection of marabou storks, white-backed vultures, Rupel's vultures, tawny eagles, and a batelier, a pair of juvenile bateliers. Sitting at the top of the tree, there's a juvenile bateliers. Coming in now, that bird that just landed there was a Rupel's vulture. The highest flying bird ever recorded. One was hit by a Boeing at 30,000 feet up into the sky, which is a couple of thousand feet, 3,000 or 4,000 feet higher than what Everest is. And that is a tawny eagle. We've got a little bit of a bone stuck in the crop there. Tawny eagles are profound scavengers. I think what's happened is it's swallowed a bit more than it can chew there. It's now battling to get it down the throat. Now these vultures, oh, and hooded vultures as well. So we've got the Rupel's whiteback vulture and hooded vulture, marabou stork, which is that grotesque bird that you're looking at there. The Rupel's vultures are the beautifully brindled brown vultures, and the white-backed vultures are the paler vultures that you can see. There's one on the left-hand side, one in the foreground here. And they basically will pick this carcass clean. And the vultures in this ecosystem eat more meat than what all the other predators here do combined, and that is including lion and hyena. They do a fantastic job. But unfortunately, they are also being poisoned at a rate that is not sustainable. And if we're not very careful about vultures and and conserving them, at least anyway, we're going to have a problem in years to come, in that disease will become a very real threat out here. And things like lion and hyena, they will battle with trying to manage diseases. Carcasses cannot be left just to be rotting in the bush in any great numbers. And vultures in the world are in a massive decrease. Marabou storks, however, they do very well around people. And you can see that that marabou is gulping down everything with that beautiful tawny eagle in the background with a golden color. One of the larger eagles out here. But for me, the prettiest of all of them are the Rupel's vultures. Not only because they are such massively high-flying birds, but I also love that brindled color that they have on their wings and on their chests as well. There where the tawny eagle is at the moment, you'll notice a red-headed bird, and that is the hooded vulture. And two of them there. I didn't do it as I suppose a Twitter handle. I just asked that if a vulture dies, will other vultures scavenge off of it? That's a good question. Yes, I think that they would, to be honest. I don't think vultures have a lot of meat on them. I've held a vulture before. I've held a leopard-faced vulture before at a breeding center, and they're heavy birds, but they're not by any means. You can't. It's not like you can't support them on one arm with a little bit of a strut. They're fairly light birds. They've got an incredibly sharp beak. The edge of their beak, not the tip, the edge of their beak slides past the bottom jaw and creates a bevel there that's as sharp as any knife that you could get. They can easily slice off chunks of meat with that beak, and they've got a very strong bite, and of course with that leverage that they've got on their neck, they can twist around a lot. So you don't want to be bitten by a vulture at all, in fact. But they're not big birds, and although I suppose they'd be eaten by another scavenger, why not? I don't think they provide a lot of nutrition or a lot of meat. We've got a jackal coming in here now, another one of the mammalian scavengers. Right there is being brought in probably by the squabbling of the vultures. They're very, very astute observers of vulture activity, our jackal. And this jackal would be coming in directly to where he might or she might be able to get some food. Obviously, as it gets closer, I'm expecting this jackal just to stop a little bit and look to see if there's any lions around. Ears pricked forward. One of my favorite of all the predators. And the reason for that is that they're always busy doing something. That is my mark of mammalian interest. If they're busy doing something all day, then I quite enjoy them. Honey badgers, jackals, and hyena are my favorite because they're always doing something. You can see he stopped there on the outskirts here. He smelt something there. And now very cautiously will come into this kill, because there are still lions around. Another male lion has looked up now. So there he is over there, Davy. Well, vultures flying in. There's almost too much to look at over here. So there's that other male lion. He's now keeping an eye on this carcass. This jackal will now come in, and there's a very good chance that the lion stands up and chases the jackal and the vultures away? I don't know. It depends on how full the lion is, I think. Yeah, the jackal comes in, stop starting, and will then dart in to try and get a morsel. Now, vultures in a group like this are intimidating enough. They'll easily fend off this jackal, but this is, I gather, not the first time this jackal has been around a carcass, and I think knows how to deal with this. And even though these lions are so close, I think he will. And now, of course, I'm proved 100% wrong. Now, while this jackal decides to walk straight past the carcass and go and antagonize some lions, Danielle has asked, how are the vultures poisoned? Danielle, in areas like this where reserves are not fenced and predators can come out, quite often predators are blamed for stock theft. In an effort to kill the predator that is to blame for the stock theft, rather than hunting it with a bow and arrow, which is what you have, or a spear, farmers out here in desperation resort to poisoning carcasses. Now, they don't intentionally mean to kill the vultures in some cases. It is literally just trying to save their livestock and their livelihood. But unfortunately, once the predator has taken a bite, that poison stays in the environment and everything else dies around it. Jackal, vultures, lion, leopard, honey badgers, you name it. This jackal is very brave. What are you doing? Now that's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is that vultures' body parts are sold in traditional medicine markets all over Africa. And often, amoral and unscrupulous people will absolutely poison donkey carcasses or cattle carcasses, kill a bunch of vultures, and then sell their body parts for money. And of course, they've got no medicinal value whatsoever. And buying a vulture body part is the same as buying a rhino horn for its placebo effect. Now we've got more zebra coming in over here, over the rise. If they're not careful, they're going to donate one of their number to these lions again. Lions, even though they are full as full can be, will never pass up an opportunity to hunt again, especially if easy food comes along. And this particular corridor that we're lying in now is littered with carcasses. We've seen about 6 or 7 carcasses, all relatively fresh. And I think what happens is there's a marsh on the other side of this corridor, and I think the zebra and the wildebeest travel between the two marshes, skirting this woodland, and I think they get ambushed by the lions here. Very clever strategy for these lions. Why move when the food is going to come to you? However, if I was one of these zebras and I saw jackal, vultures, tawny eagles, bataliers around, I would make a wide circle through the shortest grass I could possibly find. Now, all the indicators are here. Tristan, I hear, has been looking for Tingana this morning. He was spotted on a kill last night. And quite often, the way we find kills is by indicator species. Indicators are jackal. Oh, excuse me. That was the hugest sneeze. I hope I didn't do it into the microphone and all of you are now deaf and disgusted. Here comes this jackal in now. And so indicator species are, not funny enough, not vultures. Indicator species are jackal, bataliers, and tawny eagles. When we see those three around, there's almost a certainty of a kill. The vultures quite often will follow other indicator species in. They'll follow jackal or they'll follow vultures. Bataliers or tawny eagles to a kill site. Let's see what this jackal does now. He's circled this carcass now, making sure nothing's lying up. Knows where the lions are. Siberia Zumi, you wanted to know if a jackal could take down a vulture or one of these tawny eagles, as you've seen a jackal take down an eagle owl before? I think so. I can't imagine why not. I think that it's quite feasible that a jackal would be able to take down a vulture. In actual fact, I think I've seen a picture in the Kalahari Gemsbok National Park in South Africa of a jackal having a massive battle with a vulture and eventually killing it. It's not common though. They share the carcass. There's no need for the jackal to want to hunt a vulture unless it was very hungry or it got sort of lost in the excitement. And these vultures are seeing off this jackal. Now there where that jackal is now, over there, there's the largest vulture on the right hand side. No, sorry, a bit more right here, past the car here. There we go. There's a leopard-faced vulture. They're the largest vultures that we find in Africa. So that's pretty cool. Here we've got leopard-faced vulture, the largest vulture here. We've got the Ruper's vulture, the highest flying vulture, and then we've got the whiteback vulture, the most common, and then also the hooded vulture, which is quite often the last to clean up the last little scraps of meat in these carcasses and make sure that everything that can go off is looked after. Alright, why don't we, on that note, send you all the way back down to Tristan, who's still busy tracking Tingana.
We are busy tracking him, but we've come across a beautiful snake skin that's just glowing in the morning light. You can see the head in front there, and then all the way along over the branch is the rest of the skin, and then the tail coming towards us. So a fairly small snake. It's not a massive one, and just from the sort of shape of it and the head itself, it's got a very coffin shaped head to it, so it could be a black mamba skin. They often do leave their skins in trees like that. The only other two snakes that I would see up in a tree would be a boomslang, but they have a much more rounded head than what you see on that snake skin. And then there's the vine snake, so it could be a vine snake. They've got a bit more of a sort of pointier head, but cool to see. It's definitely a good sign. It means that the snakes are starting to move around and warmth is starting to happen, and so we should start seeing, maybe, hopefully, see a snake or two around. They are such interesting creatures. Amazing though that the detail in these snake skins it's always interesting when you find them. They're just so intricate and you can see every little scale. It is really a very cool thing to see. Very nice. Now our leopard tracks for this female, the last track we had, I found them going into Philemon's Dip, and I've checked Philemon's Cut Line, I've checked Treehouse Dam. I'm now just slowly edging along towards Weaver's Nest Road, and then I'm going to go up Weaver's Nest. If there's nothing there, then there must be that this leopard is just off Rebecca's somewhere. So we're going to head back towards that area because nothing coming southwards like I thought it might be. Generally the direction from there would have been south towards Treehouse, but Treehouse Dam had impalas and waterbuck, and there was lots of other antelope around, so it's not gone that side. Well, certainly if it did go that way, it's not there anymore. So hopefully it's behind us still. Ali, no news on the cheetahs just yet. Unfortunately, like I say, it's really up in this northern section at the moment is myself and one other person. So it is a big area to cover for between two people, and it's hard because the other person is really not kind of a regular guide, so they're not somebody that's going to track extensively and look really hard for tracks and tell us what's going on. So it's difficult to say where those cheetah have gone at this stage. There was one of the Birmingham boys that walked up Cheetah Cut Line and then crossed into Buffels Hook, exactly where those cheetah tracks were yesterday afternoon, and was apparently roaring quite a bit during the night, according to the guys that stay at that camp. And so that might have pushed those cheetah in any direction. But if we don't have any luck with this leopard in the first little bit, then we'll head back towards that area and see, maybe we get lucky with those cheetahs. Nolia, you say if we have no luck, can we visit the hyena den? We most certainly can. I was trying to visit the hyena den the last few days, but it hasn't been active, so there's been other guides that have gone there and they give me the update, and there's been no activity at it. So I will go and have a look though, for sure. We'll go try and see if we can't, or if there's any of the little ones out and about. Now I find with the hyena den, later in the morning seems to be better. Early in the morning they seem to still be kind of in the den itself and just resting, and then as it starts to warm up a bit, it seems to get the little ones going, and then they're out and about. It also means that, you know, Gwen or Ribbon, they're generally back later in the morning, and they're then resting as it starts to heat up. So it's a good time to go a little bit later in the drive. Maybe on the way home we'll head in that direction. But you can see I'm going very slowly in these areas, because as you get to an intersection of a road, it's always good just to check and make sure that there isn't a track that's going off in a different direction and could lead you another way. So that's why I was just stopping very carefully there and having a look. But what has happened is lots of hyenas have been walking around. They've been all over the place here. There's 2 different ones walking down towards us, and it's horrible because their track is very similar from the seat of a car to a leopard. So you keep kind of seeing the track and thinking, ah, there the tracks are, and it's not really, actually. It's just the hyenas that have been moving around. And the problem with them is tracking them is not really worth it, because of the amount of distance a hyena can cover is quite phenomenal. It really is amazing how far they can go. So Megan is telling me that the hyenas were in camp last night, so either Ribbon or Gwen, I would imagine, and they were coming to look in the bins and try and steal bins, but the bin was empty, and so we thwarted the hyena's plan to steal our bin. Because VM said to me the night before he came back and he saw our bin being carried off by a hyena far past James's tent and into the bush, so VM had to go and retrieve it from that side. It happens regularly, our hyenas, so we have to try and close all the gates, but every now and then we forget, and well, that's what happens, is we have to then go bin tracking, which is a new form of tracking, a new form of entertainment for all of us. This leopard definitely didn't come this way. Donna, in terms of hyenas changing dens, there's no fixed period when they will decide, okay, I'm going to go into this den now. It's not generally how they work. So what happens is as it gets dirty and full of fleas and the little ones are itching and it starts to smell, then they'll move it. So it's generally every sort of 3-4 months. Sometimes they can move it earlier, sometimes later. Also depends on the number of young that are utilizing the den. I know with the Elephant Plains clan, the den sites would get so busy and so many young ones that they would then change den a little bit more frequently than what this clan has been doing on this side. Right, come on leopard tracks, come out here, or leopard be sitting on a termite mound for us. How about that? That's a better thing to ask for. No, those are all hyena tracks. Seb, are you looking for our leopard?
Oh yeah.
Seb says he's scanning everything. So the tracks come off just on my right hand side here, and they come from Philemon's dip side, and they should head towards here. So this is an area where we should pick up the tracks again, if they've come out. Otherwise, if they haven't come out, it means she's lying right here in this thicket that we have. Unless I've completely missed the tracks, but I would be surprised, because these roads that we've been driving in this area are all nice, soft, powdery roads, great for looking for tracks. They're always good tracking roads around Philemon's dip and Philemon's cut line, so I would be surprised if I've missed tracks here. But maybe she changed direction, because where she walked when she changed direction is where the Nkuma Pride came out onto the road a few weeks ago, well, not a few weeks ago, about a week ago. And so maybe she just picked up the scent of that and was a little unsure and just cut off and changed direction slightly, and is now heading more in a sort of westerly direction rather than going south. There's definitely no tracks coming out here. She must still be in this drainage section here. because I don't see anything, although there are some hard sections dotted in amongst this that might make it difficult for us to see a track crossing. Marissa, you say I must bring out the can of tuna. I think so. I think it's about that time to bring out the can of tuna. Impala looks very relaxed though. He doesn't look as though he's seen a leopard any time recently. You can see he's just slowly moving off towards quarantine. I definitely think this leopard is somewhere behind us still. These impalas are coming from the west going east, so they could very well not have even known that there's a leopard in this general vicinity. But normally what you'll find is if a leopard does come towards a road, it will walk on the road for a while. Very seldom that they just cross straight over roads, and this leopard has been walking on the roads most of the time, so I would imagine it must still be here somewhere. We've just got to try and find it. I want to just check a little bit further up the road and check the soft sand nicely. If there's nothing, then back to the drainage we're going to go and try and see if we can't find her. Go ahead, Ralph. Now Ralph is just calling on the radio, but I'm the only one this side. No update, Ralph. There's just tracks for one female leopard going south on Philemon's cut line, or Philemon's dip. Tracks for Tingana going west on Walberg's Road. And then apparently there was a Madoda Ngala around in Singa at some point during the night. It was heard and seen around there at 5 o'clock this morning, but nobody's got a visual at the moment. So, I don't know, Seb. I think our leopard has grown wings and flown by the looks of things. You think we left them behind? Maybe we left our tuna tin behind as well. Tally wondering if Tingana could mate with his own daughter. Most certainly he would mate with his own daughter. I've seen Anderson mating with his daughters before, and I've seen Shovo mate with his daughter. It happens every now and then. It's generally because sometimes a male that comes in and dominates early on in life, and he then has a long tenure, means that he sometimes does mate with his daughters. It's not ideal, but it does happen, and generally when that happens, it's not too much of a stress. If it's just one or two, times, it's okay. If they produce a litter, it's not going to cause any genetic defects within that leopard. It's only when you would have defects if you had 3 or 4 years or 3 or 4 generations inbreeding, then you would start to see deformities and various other kind of things. But I mean, it does happen a little bit, and you can see a lot of these leopards are absolutely fine. So there has been a little bit of inbreeding that happens, and hypothetically, I mean, quarantine could mate with Tundi, which is him breeding with his sister, so you do sometimes see it happening. It's not an ideal situation, but it does happen from time to time. The chances though of males succeeding each other that are all related, then mating with all those females to produce 4 generations of inbred cats is almost impossible. It's really not probable in any way, shape or form, so the chances are very slim that we're going to get any deformed cats out here in a wild system. If we had to fence this all off and only have one lineage, then yes, then you would start to see it. But because this is all fairly open and there's quite a large population, it means that there's a lot of them all kind of mixing and matching, and the genetics are pretty good for the leopards in this particular section. Come on, Kitty, we've got to find you. I'm sure you're here somewhere. Oh, so I had so much hope this morning when I woke up. I thought we'd have Tingana on his kill. It will be a lovely morning to spend with him and actually see him stationary for a bit, but that didn't turn out, and now our female leopard is being a little bit frustrating as well in the same breath. Now, I'm just trying to work out exactly where I had the last track. It was somewhere just in front here. So what I might do is just try and negotiate this little drainage and see if she's not lying down somewhere inside here. She could have, I suppose, crossed on one of these little hard sections and I've missed the tracks, but I don't think so. So it would be somewhere here, Seb. Let's try and get in here and drive along this drainage and see. There's a little entrance in here that we can take and just go and scratch around and see. Now this is not the conventional way of doing things, but ultimately the Mara is having a few technical difficulties. I can't get off my vehicle to walk and check, so well, we're going to use a vehicle to do it, and maybe we'll get lucky, who knows. Imagine if we do, that would be a nice surprise. Oh, there's a nice pathway there that I would have liked to have checked. Let's see. Yeah, nice log for a leopard, Seb says. That would have been very nice, Seb. If she was lying on there, I would have been quite thoroughly impressed with life. You can see it just fallen over. Perfect little leopard lying log. The tracks though can only be for either Thandi or Shongile, because the reason for that is that Shadow wouldn't come as far as sort of Gari Dam. She tends to be on the other side of quarantine, so I don't think it could be her. And also the tracks are quite small. I think it's more Shongile than anybody else. But let's jump across to Steph, who sorted out his technical issues and is with some zebra.
We've decided that we'd come down to this marsh and come and have a look at what the grasslands are supporting, and the most unbelievable amount of plains game at the moment. From these zebra that were just lying up there, just have a look around. Topi in the distance, some Defassa waterbuck, and just at every sort of focal length there's just more and more and more zebra. And it's simply because this marsh supports a soggy piece of ground, which in turn supports quite a large number of grass, or volume. I wouldn't say much speciation, but definitely a large volume of green grass. It's short, which means that lions are going to have a tough time hiding in it. And pretty much every type of grazer that we find here, with the exception of buffalo, which I haven't seen, is present here today. There's even some eland off in the distance, which we'll go to now. Let's have a look at the way that the zebra are shining in the light. Beautiful, eh? Let's go across there. Some eland there, I think. There's some more waterbuck. Some Thompson's gazelle. A nice shiny zebra. There in the background, in the far distance as well. Wow. And this is what it's like year-round. So if you would like to know what it is like in the Mara Triangle outside of the migration, this is what it is like. A lot of people think that there's no animals here because the migration is it. But let me tell you that it absolutely isn't. These animals all live here. They do not migrate away. These are the sedentary herds here. Now, I didn't do it. You've made an interesting statement. You've said, are these the same waterbuck that can be used for farming? I don't know, you could farm waterbuck. I mean, obviously there's a very healthy and robust wildlife farming industry in South Africa in particular, although wildlife is farmed everywhere in Africa. And waterbuck are definitely high up there on the list of things to farm and to purchase. But I'm assuming that you are meaning that are Defassa waterbuck used for farming practices somewhere for meat, perhaps. Please feel free to give me some more context to that statement. So, yes, waterbuck are farmed. The Defassa waterbuck is not farmed that commonly, mainly because in every country except for South Africa, as far as I know, all the animals, whether it is on privately owned land or whether it is on state-owned land, are owned by the state. And so it doesn't matter if you put a lot of infrastructure in to farming them, you can't sell them for any money, and you can't hunt them without a license for food. Everywhere except for South Africa, where if you've enclosed your piece of land and has a fence around it, and and you've registered yourself as a wildlife breeder, anything that is on that piece of land is yours, whether it's an elephant or a waterbuck. And in South Africa, south of the Zambezi, you only find the common waterbuck, not the Defasa waterbuck like we're looking at now. And that one is extensively farmed. Wow, there's a lot of animals here. It's almost difficult to see exactly where to look, because every time I turn my head in one direction or another, something else is happening. What you're looking at is good. There's a herd of female waterbuck mixed in with some zebra. Huge male waterbuck. There we go. It's beautiful. Yeah, Hazel, you've just made a mention that we have almost every herbivore, at least every grazer on camera, and that's important. So let's see if we can start. We haven't shown you the eland, which are coming onto the open area just off to our left-hand side there, Dave. Yeah, there we go. You have them. No, those are topi. And if we go right, there's a more topi, some waterbuck, black-headed heron, obviously not a grazer, but comes and eats insects that are grazers at least anyway. Lots of waterbuck. What a fantastic view. Not too many zebras just yet. Oh, you know where we started, Dave, just to the left was the and there's an elephant behind him as well. Campy, you'd like to know if there's any daycare in the Mara. There are. Hold on one sec. Let me just double check that I've got my facts straight here. I think there are common daycare in the Mara. I'm just going to have a look now. They're definitely dik in the Mara, and there are daycare in the tropics here, but I don't know if there are. So bush daycare, yes, they do occur here. The bush daycare, subspecies distributions, savannas and woodlands, absent from forests, wide range of habitats. They absolutely do occur here. So yes, we do have daycare here. I haven't seen one yet. And then there are some forest daycare that should occur in this area as well, and a lot of different kinds of daycares. With Maxwell's daycare being present all the way up to the coast. So Blue daycare, Maxwell's daycare, lots of daycares. And then the diktik, I'm sure, as well, is in here. These are all the... I can even see some ground hornbill as well, which we'll go back to in a bit. Wow, there's a lot of birds and things here. There's much going on. Gillian, you've just asked me why do waterbucks smell so badly. Is it a musk thing? I'm going to answer that in a second. So Dave, what are you looking at there? Round about there are some ground hornbills, and then, yeah, to the left of the eland, and then further to the left, on the other side of the marsh must be about 50 or 60 elephant. You look here, there, up there. Just a little bit further left for the elephant, at least in the background there. And if you zoom in there, those spots are all elephant. Have a look at all of those elephant, everybody. Those houses in the background are the gate into the reserve, Ululolo gate. And just look at the massive amount of ellies there. We're going to go there. It's going to take us about an hour probably to get there. It's right on the other side of the reserve, but we'll try. So let me just answer the question quickly about waterbuck. They've got a large number of glands in their skin that secrete an oily substance, and that has a bad smell. In particular, males who use the smell to sort of show everybody how big they are, very similar to the secretion from the toe gland of the wildebeest. And that gives the waterbuck a very specific smell. And the reason why they have this gland on their skin is a water repellent. The long fur drags water away from the skin, and the oil gets the water away from the skin as well. And it enables the waterbuck to live in an environment that not many other antelope can, because of the danger of skin infections and of getting cold. And so the waterbuck has that smell because they've got glands in their skin that are a little bit more active than other animals, in particular male waterbuck, and it gives them a very pungent smell. And so that's why they've got those glands in their skin. All right, we're going to send you over to Scott. He's got a lot of hyena where he's sitting at the moment.
Good morning, everyone, and let's play a little game of Count the Hyena. As you can see, there's 3 in frame, and as Manu pans to the right, you guys are going to be astonished as to how many hyena are in this one sighting. So we're on 3, that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It never ends. 10, 11, 12. Keep going. 13. Some wildebeest in the background. And there are still even more further to our right. 14. Have I counted 14? I don't think so. 15. 16, 17, 18, 19. Are we going to make it to 20? 20? Incredible. 20 hyena in one sighting. How cool is that? Another 3 or 4 have already just moved off as we arrived. My name is Scott Dyson. It's a great pleasure to have you on board with myself and, like I said, Manu on camera. We had a long night out following the 5 musketeer coalition of cheetah, and they interestingly made their one kill that they made was at 1 o'clock in the morning, which is the latest into the night that I've ever seen them make a kill. We didn't actually see them make the takedown. We were with the wrong 4 cheetah, while the 5th one managed to bring down a young wildebeest. We were then sitting, interestingly, with the 4 cheetah, and they just stopped sitting, listening. And Manu and I were fairly certain that the other one had succeeded in making a kill, because it was nowhere to be seen. It was obviously just lying down in the grass with the kill. And then we just saw the other 4 cheetahs sprinting off. We followed them, and what had happened is one lone hyena had come in and chased off the single cheetah that had made the kill. The other 4 cheetah came running in, so all 5 of them then chased the hyena off, the single hyena, started feeding on the wildebeest for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then 3 hyena came in and chased the cheetah off. They continue moving, and we lost them at around 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm not sure whether they actually went to bed last night. They could have been on the move all night. We had a look around this morning after getting a few hours of sleep, but did not have any joy. Off go these hyena, massive clans in the Masai Mara, and this is the most I've seen in one spot. But there are clans that reach up to about 90 or 100 in size. I guess, distant relatives. They probably don't always hang around together when you get clans that big, otherwise we would see sightings of more of them more often. But usually we see them in groups of 3, 4, 5. But I guess they maybe divide and conquer. Beautiful scenes. Hello Patty, you'd like to know about the fact that hyenas are related to cats and